Hey, welcome, fellow guitar player and trader. So you're interested in the Gibson Les Paul Studio. Great choice, but in 2025, Gibson makes 3 versions of this legendary workhorse guitar. Let me break them down for you. I'll tell you which one I recommend and which one you might want to stay away from. I'll break down the specs, overall features, and you'll make the right choice when it comes to buying a Gibson Les Paul Studio today. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll give you my honest, raw reaction to playing all 3 of them. We have full reviews on the channel. And if you do end up buying a Gibson Les Paul or any guitar, you can use our link. You'll get fast, free shipping and easy, no-interest payment plans on Gibson. So let's get started breaking down the studio options for you. In the past year, Gibson has rolled out 3 versions of the Les Paul Studio. At $1599 is the Gibson Les Paul Studio. At $1999 is the Gibson Les Paul Modern Studio, and also at $1999, the newest is the Gibson Les Paul Studio Session. So let's talk about what to look for when you're shopping for a Les Paul in terms of features, and we'll compare the 3 of these so that you make the right choice. The first thing to be aware of is the neck shape. Now, everything in the Les Paul Studio collection is going to sport a slim taper or 60 slim taper, which means it's thinner and faster playing in terms of the neck. The second thing, which is super noticeable, is the nitro finish, whether it's full gloss or satin. At $1599, the Les Paul Studio is a full gloss nitro finish. All the studios are made in the Gibson USA plant in Nashville, Tennessee, just like their more expensive counterparts, the standards. So when we talk about finish options, the Les Paul Studio Session and the Les Paul Studio at $1599 both have full gloss finishes, while the Les Paul Modern Studio has a satin finish. It looks more eggshell or matte, but it is a drastically different playing experience. Next thing to be aware of is, of course, the pickups. Now, pickups can be changed, but I will tell you, the pickups across this lineup are all really good, really strong picks. At $1599, you'll have the Burstbucker Pros with coil tapping. The Les Paul Studio Session will sport 57s with a 57 Plus in bridge. And then in the Modern Studio, you're going to have 498T in bridge and 490R in neck. The Les Paul Studio Session and the Modern Studio are both going to sport enhanced switching capabilities. They will have coil tap, but they'll also have out of phase, which is a great sound in middle position with a push-pull. And also a bypass, which just takes the output from the bridge humbucker and routes it straight to the output for an extra kick and in-your-face tone, which I think sounds really cool. All 3 are great pickups. I have a preference. Stick with me to the end. I'll tell you which one I like the most. Now, cosmetically, Gibson is doing something new. They did not traditionally put binding on the fretboard. Across the entire collection, there is now binding on the fretboard. And that brings me to the fretboard, which is a really essential thing to look for too. At $1599, the regular studio will have a rosewood fretboard, while both the more expensive studio options will sport ebony fretboards. The binding is a cream or white, except for the Les Paul Modern Studio has a black binding, which honestly is actually hard to see against the ebony. So it almost looks like it's unbound, even though it does have the black binding on the Modern Studio. The primary playability difference here will be the difference in feel between rosewood, which you also want to condition a few times a year, and ebony, which is a more dense wood. Ebony feels super buttery to play. Both are great, but ebony just has a certain special something to the playing experience. Now, if you've ever heard it said that Les Pauls are heavy, there are certainly some heavy Les Pauls out there, but Gibson is doing you a favor with ultra modern weight relief across all 3. You'll typically see these clock in somewhere around 8 pounds, typically less than 9 pounds, with the reduction of weight in the mahogany body, which makes it a lot easier and a lot more comfortable to play. Also cosmetically is that maple top. Traditionally, a Les Paul Studio had a more plain maple top. Nothing wrong with that. It just always saved a little bit of money in the production process to use a less flamed maple top. But they've given you a great new option. At $1999, the Les Paul Studio Session sports a AA flamed maple top, and I'll show you the one I have. Check out the flame on that. And man, the level of flame on that Studio Session is typically reserved for a Les Paul Standard or even a premium top. I'm really impressed by that maple top and that flame top. The Modern Studio and the regular Studio are both going to have a more plain top, but they also have some more beautiful finish and color options now too. You can check out the Blueberry Burst, cherry sunburst, ebony, or wine red. The Session has the one I showed you, which is this beautiful bourbon burst. There's a honey burst, transparent ebony burst. That's one of my favorites. That looks so cool. And then a cobalt burst in blue. Gibson Les Paul Modern, you're gonna see right out of the gate, you can actually tell it's more satin, the finish. And it's gonna be a more plain top, smokehouse satin, wine red, or worn white. I actually think the worn white is the coolest. Now, if you step it up to either the Modern Studio or the Studio Session, you're gonna get contoured heel. It becomes all that much more playable. And that's what that looks like. You can actually see how contoured that is there. Let me give you a little more context in my reactions too. While the Gibson Les Paul Studio has been around since 1983 in various forms and features and specs, it was actually taken out of production for a short while in the past year, and at around the same time they pulled two popular models from Gibson USA's lineup as well. That was the Tribute series, and a really popular guitar is the Les Paul Classic, which has been discontinued, at least at this point. And I think by offering 3 versions of the Les Paul Studio, you're kind of making up for what's been taken out of the lineup with the refreshed feature list on the Les Paul Studio. I will tell you this, the regular Les Paul Studio at $1599 that has come back into the lineup, I really celebrated that guitar when it came out. It had been pulled out of the lineup, and when they put it back in, they called it the Studio the One, like the one guitar you'll need. It's versatile, it's lightweight, it sounds fantastic, and I was blown away. I will honestly tell you that I think that regular Les Paul Studio with that bound rosewood fretboard and the features I talked about, Gibson really hit it out of the park. It's one of their best releases from Gibson, just a straightforward Les Paul Studio at a relatively good price. And I'm really impressed by the guitar, and I would absolutely recommend it. Now, what I'll tell you is that when we step up, there's 2 guitars to look at, right? There's the Modern Studio, and then there's the Studio Session. One of those is my favorite, and one of them I'm gonna tell you to basically stay away from. And the reason for that comes down to price. If you are gonna move from the Les Paul Studio at $1599, which is so good, you could just drop everything and go buy it and you'll be happy, I promise. If you're gonna spend the extra money and step up to $1999 on a Studio, where is the value and what are you getting? I'm gonna talk about first the Les Paul Modern Studio. It's got a plain maple top, it's got dark binding on an ebony fretboard, which is hard to see, and it's got a satin finish. When you see and experience the guitar, to me, it doesn't feel like a $2,000 guitar. And if you wanted a satin finish around this price range, I would strongly urge you to skip this one and go for the Gibson Les Paul Standard Faded series. It's a couple more $100, but it'll be worth every penny if you want a satin finish to go ahead and step up to the Les Paul Standard Faded series. You will have a true Les Paul Standard with a faded, with the satin nitro finish. That is every bit worth it. So I'm gonna tell you, do not buy the Les Paul Modern Studio. Not worth it. Go with the Faded series, or if you just want a Studio, go with the one at $1599. Now, the one that you've been waiting for, my favorite, my pick, has got to be the Les Paul Studio Session at $1999. This one to me is worth the money. I think the Burstbucker Pros in the regular edition are great, but the 57s are some of my favorite humbuckers, and you get the extra versatility of having the phase flip in middle position, the output bypass for that extra hot screaming bridge output. And overall, you have beautiful binding on an ebony fretboard. You get that buttery ebony fretboard experience over the rosewood of the regular Les Paul Studio. And you get that beautiful flamed maple top. Every guitar is like a thumbprint. It's like they're unique and it's a work of art. It's made of wood. And here you get the full gloss nitro finish instead of the satin of the Modern Studio. And also with the Session, I just think that they took the feedback from everything in the time that they took the Les Paul Studio out of production. By the time they put them all back in and they were staggered releases, I feel like the Session, which is the newest, hit every box. It checked every box for what I want to see in a perfect Les Paul Studio. Not to say that the regular one at $1599 is not also fantastic, but if you're going to spend the extra money, the Les Paul Session is really, really worth it, and I'm blown away by this guitar. So if we're going to rank them, I suppose we'll rank them this way. At a distant 3rd place, the Les Paul Modern Studio. In 2nd place, great, fantastic guitar, you cannot go wrong, is the Studio at $1599. Just the basic Les Paul Studio, fantastic guitar. And the ultimate winner by a mile here, number 1, 1st place, the Les Paul Studio Session at $1999. If you are deciding to buy any of these guitars or any gear, do me a huge favor. Click to buy that new gear using the link below. You'll get fast free shipping, easy payment plans, no interest on Gibson. It makes buying a new Gibson super easy, and you help us make the demos on Play and Trade guitars when you buy using our link. Also, if you haven't subscribed, we're giving away this Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s over my shoulder in beautiful red finish, cardinal red. To win that guitar, subscribe if you haven't, turn on notifications, and enter via Gleam. All that is also down below, along with the links to buy any of the gear that you're after. So thanks for taking this journey with me, looking at the Gibson Les Paul Studio, the 3 iterations that are available here in 2025. I hope this helps you make the right choice. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below and I'll get back to you. And happy hunting for the guitar of your dreams. I think Gibson USA is really hitting it out of the park lately. I'm really impressed by the studio lineup. And that regular Les Paul Studio or the Studio Session are some of the best guitars I've seen Gibson put out lately. I really am impressed. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, I'm John for Play and Trade Guitars. Keep playing, keep trading. See you next time.